What's up, yo? Welcome to Your One Life. I'm your host, Kim Young Kim, and I am super glad to have you as a listener today. Now, if you're new to this podcast, I want you to know what it's all about. This podcast is all about teaching you from the greatest minds in the world, improving all aspects of your life, and helping you make your family proud by becoming better than them, and then throwing your success in their faces. Now, that's a joke, but I will say that that's a beautiful byproduct of becoming a better version of yourself. On my previous podcast called Young Legends, I had this one lady. Her name is Yaneli Espanol, also known as Miss Be Helpful, and she's a financial educator and expert. And as she was developing herself in this aspect, the more she learned, the more she wanted to help out her family members, her friends. But you know how it is. Oftentimes, people don't take you seriously if you already know them, and they disregarded her advice. Well, long story short, she started getting featured in CNBC and other media outlets, and her star started to rise, and she really started to prove herself as a financial expert. And as she got that success, eventually, her family members and her friends could no longer deny the fact that she knew her stuff, the fact that she had great advice to give, and then all of a sudden they started to listen to her, and now they turn to her for advice on all things money. And this is what you want. You want to develop yourself by listening to this podcast, by learning other things, and as you develop yourself, you want to improve your life, but you also want to improve the lives of the people around you, and to some small degree, tell them I told you so. And if you don't want this, then that makes you a better person than me. And speaking of becoming a better person, I do have to say, damn, it feels good to be a gangster of the KonMari Method, because my house is in order, okay? My house is straightened out. I am really happy with the results of me going through this process. Now, it's not 100% perfect. I still have a tool closet that is going to need some work. It looks okay from a glance, but I know that it is not to the level where I want it to be. And also, I did hang on to those journals after all. But regardless, I am 96% done. And like I said previously, if that's the case, it's an A in my book. Now, regarding the storing portion of this method, storing was so much easier than discarding. I can't tell you how much easier it was, because once it was all sorted out, it was just a matter of finding places to put it. And Marie Kondo says this in her book. And she also says you'll probably end up with half the stuff, a third, maybe a fourth of what you had before. And I haven't been counting exactly how much stuff I have, but I do know that I had a room full of stuff, and now I have all that stuff put away, and it feels dang good. And what's crazy is when I looked at all the boxes of the stuff that I had all sorted out, I thought for sure that I would have to put some of this stuff in my basement. But what Marie Kondo says is you have enough space in your house to store all of your possessions. And I will say that I have more than enough space. I literally couldn't believe it when I put everything away. But not just that, I'm so proud of the way things look that I want people to look at my drawers. I feel like my 8th grade self again, sagging my pants to show the world my Calvin Kleins. Just kidding. I didn't wear Calvins. I wore Old Navies. Proudly. Now, jokes aside, a few of my kitchen drawers and desk drawers, and even one of my dresser drawers is completely empty. And you know what that means? Time to load up on more stuff. Just kidding. But it feels good to see the transformation of my space. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, I can seriously get used to this. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of the advice that she gives on storing your stuff and putting it away. She says stuff that's like each other needs to be stored together. So things that are electronic need to go with things that are electronic. Anything that's cloth-like needs to go together. Anything that's paper-like needs to go together. Don't scatter stuff about, because if it's with the things that it's like, you'll know exactly where it is. And remember, all your personal papers that you need to deal with need to be in one place. And yes, I will admit that I do have a big stack of papers to deal with, but guess what? I know exactly where they are. And since they're all in one place, I can get them knocked out in an afternoon and be done with them. And going back to having stuff that's like each other stored together, she says you designate a space once putting like things together and you never have to do it again. And it feels really good to be in this situation. I know I have 4C batteries, 8 AA batteries, 40 AAA batteries. Yes, I know I have a problem. And my problem is not keeping track of all the stuff that I have. But this problem will no longer be my problem. And that's a good feeling. So the question is, where do you designate the place that you're going to put things? She says, you need to ask your house. Ask your house where to store things, and your house will tell you. And I actually did this myself, and my house told me, put your batteries in this specific kitchen drawer of your house. Put your electronic things in a dresser drawer in the bonus room, and put your Nickelback CDs in the trash can. And yep, that's exactly what I did. And because of this, according to Marie Kondo, I can spend less time looking for things, which is always stressful when you're trying to find something and you don't know where it is. I can relax knowing that things are in order, and I'm feeling that relaxation already, and this has only been a couple days since I've gotten it all together. So, how do you go about storing your stuff? Here's what she recommends. Use shoe boxes. She says shoe boxes have an infinite number of uses. The lids are super useful as well to act as trays. And one thing that I learned through this whole process is that women's shoe boxes are about 13 inches long. Men's shoe boxes are about 14 inches long. And the men's shoe boxes that I had would not fit in my dresser drawers. So I started asking on Facebook and Nextdoor for women's shoe boxes. And these are in my local Buy Nothing groups and my neighborhood group. So I know somebody's got some women's shoe boxes, but nobody was responding. And I really feel like a lot of women were waiting for me to say, hey, please send me pictures of your feet to prove that these are women's shoe boxes and not men's. And one of my main goals in life is not to creep out the people who live near me. So what I decided to do is I went out and bought some storage solution containers that were the perfect size for what I was looking for. And I know this comes off as contradictory to maybe the spirit of the movement and the idea of not being such a consumer, but I decided to splurge, number one, because of time's sake, but also I feel like when you do hard things, you also get to have nice things. And this is a metaphor for life as much as it is for getting your house in order. And also, when I went to the store and I saw these items, they did spark joy. And I was like, you know what? This will encourage me to not just get my stuff in order, but to keep my stuff in order. But going back to her advice, she says, use shoe boxes, iPhone boxes, other boxes, Tupperware bottoms, all these things you can find around your house. And you do not need to go out there and spend money in order to get your house in order. On the flip side, she did go out and start a storage line at the Container Store. And I'm sure money had a lot to do with it. But just like me buying storage containers is helping encourage me to really get it all together, this might help you as well. And so if you have the money to do it, if it sparks joy, and of course, if it encourages you to get organized, that's a personal judgment call that you're going to have to make. Now, if I didn't have the time constraint and also I wasn't worried about looking like a creeper online, I probably would have went with the original advice that she gave in the book that was published in 2016. Now, one thing she says is if you live with people, each person has to have their designated storage space because when people have ownership of a storage space, they take really good care of it, just like they'll take good care of anything that they have ownership of. Here's some tips that she gives in regards to how to be successful with this. One thing she says is don't try to put things in arm's reach just because you want it to be convenient. That's what creates clutter. Put things in their designated spaces and be willing to walk over and get them out when you need them. Also, don't stack things horizontally. Nothing should be under anything else. Because when things are underneath other things, what happens? You can't find the stuff that's on the bottom, but it's also physically hard and stressful on the items at the bottom. And unless you're making wine and you have grapes at the bottom of your storage space, which is either absolutely genius or absolutely stupid. Nothing should be underneath anything else. Another tip she gives is items that eat up floor space need to go into the closet. The only exception being a twister mat, because you never know when your friends want to come over and get injured. Does anyone even play that game anymore, by the way? I have no idea. But in regards to your closet, she says if you store stuff in clear plastic bins, use the ones that have drawers instead of the ones that have lids on them. And the reason why is drawers are easier to open and you are more likely to get stuff out if you have drawers and not the ones with lids on them. Also, she says you need to decorate your closet as a personal shrine. And what you can do is you can take stuff that you're embarrassed about, but you personally love, and you can, quote, transform your closet into a private space, which gives you a thrill of pleasure. And the beauty of decorating your closet is that nobody's going to go in there but you, and therefore it's the one place in your house that you can fully feel free to be yourself and decorate as such. So if you have a collection of El Chapo bobbleheads, or you have a diorama that you made of One Direction while you were in grad school, guess what? Your closet is a space and place where these things should live. All right, let me wrap up that last part. Yo, what I'm all about is stuff around my house. What I freaking need is a bunch of boxes where I put shoes, and that is the news. What I come through and use is the bottoms, also the tops. Do it nonstop. That's what I'm saying. Something that I rock. I got my own space. I'm talking about a place that is my own zone. And you should have family members that have their own. And that's what I'm saying. Don't stack things on top of each other, because you'll discover the things on the bottom just get crushed. And that's what you don't want so much. So you need to understand how you got time to come through and make a personal shrine, things that you celebrate up in your mind. And that's what I'm saying. That's a good find. Have it in your closet. Use your logic. And that's what I say when I come through. I pop it. Talk about storage up in the flow. So if you don't know, now you know. All right, so that's that. Now the question is, why should you do this? Why should you commit to this practice? Well, here's something that I learned. This will actually help you in other aspects of your life. For example, you may have too much junk in your trunk. That's right, your car is full of stuff. And when I cleaned out my house, I said to myself, oh, you know what? How can I have a clean, ordered house and a dirty car? That doesn't make any sense. So I went outside and I got my car and my trunk in order, and my house being cleaned and ordered has inspired me to clean elsewhere as well. And historically, clutter has not bothered me, but now that I'm doing this, it kind of does bother me. And honestly, that's a good thing. But not just this, you will be surrounded by things that spark joy. Imagine if you only had coworkers that spark joy. Imagine if you could ship off the ones that don't spark joy to another department. Now, that's not possible, but the one cool thing about this is your home and also your car are the spaces that you have control over, that you can make wonderful. And that's all we can really do in life, is to have control over the spaces that are fully in our domain. Now, in the past, I've found myself passing judgment on women, being obsessed about their homes and beautifying them. But after I've been going through this, I'm actually starting to get it. I really am. Now, Marie Kondo says as you go through this process, what it's going to do is going to help you to let go of grudges, of trauma, of fears. And that's what all of us need to do. We need to let go of the past. We need to let go of anything that is holding us back so we can step into the very best chapters of our life, which are the ones ahead of us. Also, she says as you go through this process, it's going to help sharpen your sense of intuition. It's going to help you to make decisions more confidently. And I think we all need a little bit more of that. And in her book, she mentions that a lot of her clients actually have physical changes of their body after going through this process. And she says she sees them afterwards and their body weight is glowing and they've lost skin. Oh, hold on, my bad. I mean, their skin is glowing and they lost body weight. That's a little better, right? But in all seriousness, she says people lose weight, people look better, and they look better because they live better. And that all makes sense if you really think about how much of an impact your environment has on you. She even mentions that a lot of her clients have bouts of diarrhea right after they get their house in order. And she says that this is actually their body expelling toxins just like their house has expelled toxins. And I've yet to have this happen for me, so I'm going to admit that I'm pretty disappointed, but I'm hoping that my diarrhea day will be coming soon. Now, some of the things that she talks about in this book are a little woo-woo, and this sounds a little woo-woo probably to you. And if it does, just remember, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and realize that she still does have many good things to say. Now, going back to the topic of fears, which is one of the biggest reasons why we don't throw things out, what she says is your unwillingness to throw things out is reflective of your attachment to the past or your anxiety about the future, and this will dictate the choices that you make, including the relationships that you choose and the jobs that you choose, and so on and so forth. And oftentimes people will get with someone or take a job because they don't think another good one will come along, or they can't move on from a past relationship or maybe even a past job. One thing that she does say is a lot of her clients, after they go through her program, they figure out what they really want. They end up quitting their job and going into a new profession. They end up writing a book. They end up pursuing the life of their dreams. And that's the reason why we do all of this, right? We do this not just because it'll get our house in order, but in the hopes that it'll help us get our lives in order as well. All right, let me wrap up that last part real quick. You can let go of what's in your past and make a switch to a future path. Let go of your worries and move towards a life that sparks your joy, a life of moving forward. So now the choice is yours. What will you do with it? That's right, the choice is yours. The choice is always yours. And the question is, what will you do with it? So how's this program impacted me since I started doing it? Now, my house is the exact same house it was a couple months ago, 2 weeks ago, a couple days ago, but the rooms feel better, they feel roomier, they feel more comfortable, and I feel more at ease at my house. And I'm not just sitting here saying this because I did the program. I'm saying this because this is actually how it feels. Another effect that's happened for me is dirt has been standing out, and she says this in this book. You will notice the dirt so much more, and you'll want to clean up the dirt. And that is the case. I am actually excited to vacuum. I am excited to dust, sweep, and mop. And I never thought I would say this before, but here we are. Beyond that, my daily routines, like my blow dryer. I used to throw my blow dryer in this box under the sink with a bunch of stuff in it. And sometimes it would get caught on things as I was taking it out. Well, guess what? I've thrown away a lot of those things, and now I just lay it right there on its own. And my daily routine is improved by this very small thing. Beyond that, I look at my walls and I look at my house and I'm like, you know what? I need more beauty. I need more inspiration on my walls, in the living room, in my room, in the bonus room, in the hallway, so on and so forth. And so this is inspiring me to beautify my home. On top of that, my life no longer feels like a horror movie. You know, when you watch a horror movie and the person is walking through the house and you say out loud, no, don't go in there. Well, that was me when people were at my house, right? I'd be like, no, don't go in there. It's a complete clusterfest in there. And I no longer have to say that. I no longer have to have shame of my space. I can show people all the rooms in my house when I give them a tour. And that is a sigh of relief. It also feels really good that I'm no longer disgusted with myself and the surroundings that I created in my own house. And one of the things that I learned most through this process is the biggest waste is mental space. The biggest waste is not physical objects. the biggest waste is mental space. And my mental space and my mental peace are super important, need to be protected, and I have a huge, huge role in making that happen for myself. All right, now I want to end this episode on a couple of notes. Two things that she says in her book that I think are really important. Here's one thing. In essence, tidying ought to be the act of restoring balance among people, their possessions, and the house they live in. That's right. This is all about restoring balance to your life and helping you get your life together. And I've read about enough people who shared about their story of how this has changed their life that I feel like it'll help significantly. Also, the last major point she says in her book is, quote, "As for you, pour your time and passion into what brings you the most joy, your mission in life." And I hope you do just that. And I hope you got a lot out of this series as I wrap it up. Now, if you're new here, don't forget to hit the follow button in order to not miss future episodes. And if you've been listening, please rate and review the podcast in order to help the word spread. And also, if you know somebody who needs to hear this message, please forward these episodes to them. As I said in my previous episodes, you may need to come back to this episode to refresh your mind if you are not on this part of your journey yet. And I highly recommend that you do just that as you're going through the process. And also make sure to look into more resources such as the book and the audiobook, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Go to Marie Kondo's website, read blogs about this stuff, and fight the good fight. Go through the KonMari Method. You will not regret it. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to my dude Siraj who made the beat for this podcast. And I want to give a shout out to you for the awesome things that you're going to do with the learnings from the KonMari Method. This is Your One Life. I'm Kim Young Kim. I hope you have a great day, a great week, and until next time, peace!